Project management, man, the silent but deadly destroyer of revenue within your business. Generally, when most clients come to us and they're struggling to keep up with demand, it's not necessarily a sales issue or a hiring issue, but instead it's a project management issue. And this is especially true with agencies that approach us. You'd be surprised how many of these agencies don't actually have any systems in place to manage their clients' projects. Nobody knows what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it by, who they're supposed to turn it into, and as a result, these businesses are bottlenecked because nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And on top of that, they have no idea how to prioritize an ever-increasing backlog of items. This leads to a few things. First and foremost, the missing out of revenue due to the perceived cap of capacity on your business. This means you think that you can't take on any more clients, but really your systems are crap. In simple terms, this means you think you can't take on any more clients, but in actuality, you can. Your systems are just bad. And second, it leads to significantly more time, resources, and financials being poured into pointless tasks, directionless meetings, and just kind of a whole bunch of hullabaloo that looks like that SpongeBob meme where they're just running all over the place. With that being said, today I wanted to take you guys through a few of my favorite project management software that we use for ourselves and for clients as well, and we'll kind of give you a few examples of the different systems that you can build inside of that software as well, just to kind of give you guys an overall view. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Now, the first tool I want to talk about is Airtable. This is something that I bring up frequently on the channel and with clients, basically in any of my content that you can find on the internet, but it's for very good reason. There are four main features that I want to highlight with Airtable that kind of make it almost the perfect project management system depending on who you are. The first feature that I want to highlight is their built-in forms. They are directly integrated into the software, and this is huge, especially if you have team members that fill out forms on a daily basis. It's helpful to have them integrated into the software right there instead of having to have them fill out a type form and then trying to cross-reference the two, or having to build out a separate automation that populates them inside of the software. It makes it a lot easier. This makes it super easy to track things like new contacts for your CRMs, new project requests from your clients, wink, revision requests, end of day forms for employees. The list goes on and on. There are forms built into Airtable, and it's awesome. Just to give you a quick example, we have 4 forms that we use with our Airtable CRM. Those are the end of day forms for our setter and our closer, the new contact form to add new contacts to the CRM, and a new deal form to add new deals to the CRM and link them back to the original contact. This leads me into my second favorite feature, which is their interfaces. Now we can take all of this data that's within our tables and visualize it in one singular place to get a high-level overview of our business. Interfaces are basically these customizable dashboards that can do a whole lot of stuff. From building basic analytics dashboards where you, again, have that high-level overview of your business, to building out almost like custom SaaS functionality with buttons, profiles for each of your employees. You can see what their workload looks like depending on how many tasks are linked back to them. You can create record views for storing resources like SOPs for your employees as well. The list goes on and on. There's so many uses for interfaces inside of Airtable, and really the only limit is just how creative you can be. Not to mention the flexibility with Airtable. You know, you have tables and then tons of different column types to choose from, and it just makes it super easy to build a robust project management system. Now it's time for pros and cons. Pros, you have a buttload of customizability. Again, you can basically build your own internal software inside of Airtable alone. It's cheap, debatably. I'll touch on that in just a second. You have built-in automations as well with the software, and then it stores a bunch of data. And when I say a bunch of data, I mean more than any other project management software out there, and for a fraction of the price. Now let's talk about cons. First and foremost, if you're someone who's not very technical, or you find it hard to mess around with spreadsheets, Airtable is going to seem like a foreign entity to you. If you're non-technical, there's definitely a larger learning curve. Second con, cheap, debatably, again. So if you have a smaller team, usually what we do is we just all share one login to, keep it on that $20 a month plan. But Airtable does charge, for each user that you add onto your team that has edit permissions, which means the price can add up really quickly. Another con, it can be a little bit clunky at times. It's pretty ugly. Fourth, I think this is fourth, I'm not quite sure, but the reporting features are pretty limited in terms of exporting those reports. You can build some cool dashboards, but getting them outside of Airtable is a different story entirely. And then finally, their mobile interface is basically non-existent. Like, they basically don't even have a mobile app, so something to keep in mind. And number 2, we have Clickup. This is something that I personally use for project management, and for a very, very good reason. Obviously, we're a DevOps agency, so we're building a lot of technical things, whether it's like AI applications or automated workflows, or we're working on, data visualization for a company. A lot of these require technical skill, so Clickup makes it really easy for us to use Agile workflow. If you don't know what that is, I'll make another video on it eventually, but we use Agile and Clickup makes it super easy. But inside of Clickup, you have everything you'd need from a project management software, from your dashboards for reporting. You can create spaces for separate departments and then lists inside of those spaces, create folders. It just makes it super easy to organize everything inside of one singular place. Just to give you an idea of how we manage our client projects, we have an entire space dedicated solely to client success. And inside of that space, we have separate folders for each client where we store all of their assets, all of the upcoming tasks, revision requests, bug fixes, whatever the case might be. It's all inside of their folder and we can see it all in one singular place. Whenever a client submits an improvement request or a bug report as well, it will show up directly inside of their Clickup dashboard for us to work on later. Now for pros and cons. First, it's cheap. There's tons of integrations. It makes it super easy to collaborate with other team members, but most of all is the customization. You can really take the base product of Clickup and turn it into something that is completely your own, completely personalized to your business, from task templates to list templates to changing color schemes, branding, whatever the case might be. However your team works, you can change Clickup to customize it that way. And then something else that's pretty cool as well is the time tracking feature. They integrate directly with an app called Clockify, which is something that I use to track my time and my team members' time as well. Now for cons. The dashboards in terms of reporting can be a little bit limited, especially when you compare it to something like Airtable, where you basically have free reign, and the automations can be a little bit limited as well. Granted, Clickup is not an automation software. Second con is performance issues with bigger companies, especially once you really start to scale and that backlog begins to build up. More team members come onto the team. It begins to lag a little bit. Sometimes things will glitch, templates won't be applied to specific tasks get lost, and the software becomes a bit buggy. And then finally, it can be a bit overwhelming at first, especially if you're not used to a project management software like that. You hop in there and there's so much going on that you might not really know where to start. So don't worry, Clickup video coming soon. Number 3, we have Notion. So Notion has often been compared to Clickup or Airtable and kind of like the same realm, but there are a couple reasons I don't actually really use Notion anymore. But for small teams, it's a phenomenal and powerful software. Notion, just like Airtable, really has the ability to be whatever you want it to be, from building a home wiki where your team can navigate to different pages. You can build a CRM inside of Notion. You can build all of your SOPs as documents inside of Notion. You can build your project management system as a Kanban view and then have all of your SOPs housed underneath that. You can set up all of your content systems, etc., etc. The list goes on. But really what I've found is that Notion is honestly best for creatives, not for bigger teams or actual enterprise size companies. Notion in many ways is much more customizable than apps like Clickup, just because of the way that you can customize and set up your pages. But really, that's honestly where it stops. It's great for building databases and storing information, but that being said, I do have a few gripes about it. So let's hop into the pros and cons. First and foremost, Notion is incredibly affordable. If you're someone who's just starting your business or you've got a really small team, Notion is a great place to be. Second, you have your customizability. Again, it can be turned into anything you want. However you work, it can be fit to customize that workflow. Third, it's got a very intuitive design and easy to use UI, so it's pretty simple and straightforward once you actually get in there. It's not very hard to figure out. There's no real learning curve. Another pro is that it's all in one, so you really have kind of a bit of everything inside of one software, from data storage to building out your CRMs, your content systems, your SOPs, your wiki, your team management. Everything is kind of housed all under one roof. And then finally for the pros is the cross-platform. So Notion has a very good mobile app. Probably out of all of the project management software I'm covering today, it has the best app, to be honest with you. But now let's hop into the cons. First, you have limited data reporting. There's not really any place to build out a dashboard in Notion for any kind of reporting unless you're using an external tool, which can kind of be a little bit tricky. And there's not really any place where you can measure, productivity when it comes to your team members or their output. The point is, you can't really visualize data without using a third-party software. Second con is all in one. I know I put this as a pro, but it's also a con for this specific reason. Notion has the ability to do everything, but it's not particularly good at doing anything, if that makes sense. It can do everything, but it's not really good at all of them. Kind of a jack of all trades situation. Third, there are no automations built into Notion. And normally this wouldn't be an issue, but if you're someone who's not really technical with automations, this can be a bit of a caveat. And even if you are someone who's technical with automations, if you've messed around with Notion's API, it can be a little bit finicky at times, to say the least. And then finally, we have storage limits and performance. Needless to say, say, once you reach a certain amount of data, not only does it get expensive, but it also begins to become a little bit clunky, laggy at times, and overall it just doesn't perform as well. So that being said, Notion is perfect if you're a solopreneur, you're a solo creator, you're someone who's in some type of creative field, and maybe you don't have a big budget, or you have a very small team and you're just looking for something to get started, just need to get going. Notion's a pretty solid option. Another great option if you're a small team that's looking to get off the ground with everything laid out for you is actually today's sponsor, Vendasta. Meet Vendasta, the all-in-one software platform for agency owners. With Vendasta, you're equipped with all the tools you need to market, sell, bill, and fulfill solutions for your clients. Give your clients a white label app filled with essential solutions every single local business needs, including a CRM, social media management, local SEO, and even reputation management as well. Meanwhile, Vendasta's automated reporting tools give your clients peace of mind about the return on their investment, while your agency bills them a monthly subscription that gets deposited right into your bank account. Then meet even more customer needs with Vendasta's extensive marketplace to build tailored packages for your clients, featuring best of breed products from companies like Google and Meta as well. So guys, you can get started with a free 14-day trial by clicking the link down in the description below or the first pinned comment. Finally, a very half-assed number 4 and 5, you guys will have to forgive me, are Asana and Monday. Now I kind of put these guys under the same roof because really they're not incredibly different. Now when it comes to the two of them, Monday.com in my opinion is the better software, but they're both pretty similar and they're very entry level when it comes to project management. Obviously, you have different views like your Kanban view, your list views for different tasks. You can set up task templates. They do have built-in automations like inside of the software, although it's incredibly limited. And Monday.com does have some pretty comprehensive reporting. But if you've tried any of the other project management software I've talked about today, when you try Monday.com and Asana afterwards, they begin to feel like the light versions of the other software. They feel like free trials, basically. I could be wrong. Maybe you have a different opinion. Let me know down in the comments. But if you're just getting started and you're looking for something to, just get your foot in the door, you don't really know how project management works, you just need a way to track tasks, they're decent options. But with that being said, let's get into the pros and cons. So for the pros, they have a decent number of automations. It's pretty easy to automate things within both of the software themselves. You have some pretty decent reporting, although it's limited. The reporting should get you by. It'll tell you exactly what you need to know, at least from a project management point of view. You'll know everything that you really need to, which is really all you can ask for. And then finally, you have a decent number of integrations as well. They're actually, linked in with a bunch of different software, whether you're using Slack or Gmail. It's pretty easy to use other tools that you might use in your business, all inside of that software as well. Now let's talk about the cons because they're pretty big. First and foremost, these software are costly. They can get pretty expensive. I haven't checked on the pricing in a little while, but last I checked, it was pretty up there, especially when you begin to add team members and more data and more features. It begins to rack up really quick. And out of all of these software that I've given you today, the cost to value ratio isn't really there, in my opinion. Second con is the lack of flexibility and customization. There's really not much you can do in there. Like in terms of customizability and making it your own, there's really not much. You have, maybe you put 1 or 2 different metrics on your dashboard, like, oh, you can track one other thing. Otherwise, there's not really much. It's just kind of what the software gives you. And then finally, it can get really laggy and clunky as you add more data in. Again, these are just my opinions, guys. Let me know what you think about them down in the comments below, but I've yapped for long enough now. So what do I think of all the software? Where do they stand on my list? Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but my favorite is Clickup. It's pretty easy to grasp once you actually get in there. There are tons of automations, tons of customizability, and it's pretty cheap as well. I think we're paying anywhere from $10 to $20 a month. Like I'm really the main one who uses it. So it's pretty cheap, it's affordable, and it doesn't really begin to break unless you're a massive company. My second is Airtable. Again, it's affordable, debatably, and there's tons of customizability. Only thing that really gets me is the lack of mobile app, because that's pretty important, especially if you have a bunch of employees that need to be on their phones at all times, and then also how clunky it can be even on the PC. But that being said, Airtable is a very big favorite of mine. Then after that, you have Notion. Again, if you're someone who's running a very small business, you're looking for something cheap, you're just looking to get into it, you're a creative, Notion is a pretty solid option. After that, you have Monday.com and Asana. These personally, I included on the list because they're still decent options, but I personally wouldn't recommend them just from my own experience. But with that being said, guys, if you want a free project management template that I put together, you can click the link in the description or in the first pinned comment below, and I'll send that right over to you. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave it a like for the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more content from me, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another upload. With that being said, guys, I will see you guys later. Peace.